One of the most important things in mobile application design for us as designers is to consider how we transition from one screen to another screen. This video and the next video will be covering a couple different types of transitions, including an overlay transition, which is a really powerful tool within Adobe XD. So I have a really simple setup. I have 3 artboards right now. This overlay artboard will come into play later. But I have this tab 1 and this tab 2. And all I want to do is basically switch these over. So as I tap tab 2, it's going to go to tab 2. As I tap tab 1, it's going to go to tab 1. We've already done this in an earlier video, but just to reiterate, I select the object and I drag the arrow over to where I want it to transition and I release. And there's a couple different options in here. Transition, auto animate, overlay, which we'll be covering all of these 3. Transition we've used before, but we haven't really been super thoughtful about it. So let's cover what is actually in here. So we have the trigger itself. Typically we'll just be using tap, but drag can also be used for certain transitions, and especially for auto animates, which we'll talk about later. We have the action, which we're just going to be using transition. And then we have the animation. So earlier we talked about how iOS commonly uses a slide animation, so let's look at slide left. And I think the default was ease out, and the duration was probably, I don't know, 0.2 or something like that. So I'll just click off and I'll hit play, and now I'm going to tap this, tab 2, and we'll see the transition. It's really quite quick. So let's just select that transition again and change that time to 1 second. Let's see what 1 second looks like. And this might be much too slow, although it could be useful in certain applications. It's maybe a little too slow for our purposes, so let's try and find something just right. I think 0.6 is a good number. That feels pretty good to me. So let's talk about the animation itself. So in the transition we have this easing. So the easing modifies how the animation is displayed. So ease out, ease in, and ease in out, all basically we can think of animation as kind of a curve, and it's sort of like a bell curve. Whenever we ease out, we're going to slow down the animation as we reach the end. Whenever we ease in, we're going to slow down the animation whenever we start it and speed up. And whenever we ease out and in, we're going to do that on both ends. So let's look at ease out first, which is what we had before. And I'm going to change to 1 second just so that we have that extra time to look at the animation. I'm going to hit play. Okay, so we feel that transition and how long it took at the end. Let's click it and let's change it to ease in instead of ease out. And we have the opposite effect now, right? Now it's slow at the beginning and then speeds up towards the end. Let's change it to ease out and in. So now it speeds up in the middle, but that's it. We can further change these to things like snap. Whenever we hit snap at the end, it's going to almost like very rapidly move into place. See, it almost goes like too far with snap. You see that? This little black line appears on the side. I'll hit play just to show you that one more time. So it goes almost a little bit too far and then snaps into place. Again, a really quite beautiful and very modern and sleek animation. Let's switch to wind up, which is the opposite of snap, where at the beginning it sort of does that effect and then ends in a standard way. So at the beginning it kind of pushes this direction and then slides over. All of these animations have their different purposes. And just play around with the aesthetics of this. Bounce, the last one, I'm not quite sure when this one's actually useful, but it creates this almost comical bounce. I guess it might be useful if there's some error or something in the program. Maybe you have like an error screen whenever they click something incorrectly, or maybe like a timer goes off. That might be useful, but it's a little aesthetically jarring, to say the least. Let's switch this back to ease out, and we'll do the 0.6 seconds. Additionally, in this we have different animations, which we've kind of talked about, but let's look at the difference between slide left and push left. So this is push left. Push left is very two-dimensional. All of the push commands are very two-dimensional. It's almost like we're navigating on a larger piece of paper. Whereas slide is like we're looking through several pieces of paper. So whenever I do slide, they kind of move on top of each other. You can see the shadow and this parallax effect and all of that. So this is all just about being more thoughtful with our transitions and why we're using certain transitions versus other transitions. Dissolve, by the way, it's not really going to aesthetically do much here, but basically it'll kind of fade in. You can see it particularly with the number. So just watch that number, and you can see it fade in. So dissolve can be useful if this actually might be a case to use dissolve where we're just moving one or two elements of the page and not the whole page. So again, just be thoughtful with your transitions, and in future videos we're going to be covering how to do overlays and how to do auto animate transitions.